Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand. And we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple Television, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Well, we begin tonight's broadcast by queering up breaking news. The White House goes over the rainbow for the second time in history and behind the scenes at Respect for Marriage Act signing. Yesterday, Queer News Tonight was the only LGBTQ plus media in the world that was live at the White House for the historic signing of the Respect for Marriage Act. Our broadcast went live to the nation at 3 p.m. Eastern as we reported on the largest gathering on the White House lawn in 2022. Happening Out anchors Todd and Jeff Del May shared the inside story with our viewers with images of the ceremony. And last night, in a celebration of the historic event, the White House was illuminated in rainbow colors in support of the LGBTQ plus community. Todd and Jeff were honored as plaintiffs of the 2014 Florida Supreme Court case that overturned Florida's constitutional denial of same-sex marriage. They had front row access to the event and personal interaction with both President Biden and Vice President Harris. Tomorrow, we invite you to tune in tonight as I will have an in-depth conversation with Todd Del May of all the behind-the-scene moments of this historic event. You're going to learn more about who he bumped into and a cavalcade of the LGBTQ plus and ally advocacy in America. Tune in tomorrow for this fascinating secret behind-the-scenes moments in pictures and sound that will make this moment even more special for the South Florida and American queer community. It was really quite exciting. Todd and Jeff, they've anchored here at Queer News Tonight many times. They agreed to broadcast on the lawn, and we were going to do live shot. And we ended up not being able to do live shot because when they arrived, they were informed that they were going to be in a special delegation of honorees that were part of the plaintiffs.
Oh, they didn't know that?
They did not know.
Wow. Oh,
and
wow.
when they arrived, they were whisked into, I believe, the East Room of the White House. A private tour was done for them as special VIP dignitaries, 16, 18 in this group. But the exchange was, oh, sorry, your phones, please. And all of our plans went whoop.
Oh,
that was that.
Oh, but how cool for them,
And
though.
so amazing. And when you watch it, David Hopkins and I anchored the coverage starting at 3. And we let Schumer do his thing and didn't go in, and then we tossed it to Nancy Pelosi in our broadcast, and it was a lot of fun. And the pictures and the images of what you're going to see in the conversation with him, I've spent 3 hours with him today in advance of my Hollywood Pride, which is very exciting for next month. And he talks about the moments. And Todd Del May, who ran for State House of Representatives, got giddy as he explains to me that President Biden is standing here and Vice President Harris is standing here, and they all hug.
Oh my God, like they touched?
We have the pictures we're going to show you tomorrow in Queer News.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
I'm so happy for them, and I'm happy for the entire LGBTQ community, because you think back just 3 years ago what we were experiencing and what we watched yesterday.
You're so smart to have sent Todd and Jeff over. If you would have sent me, there would have been an extensive strip search, aside from taking my phone and everything else. Okay, so and thank you for covering that.
Yeah,
you know, when you and I were texting, as we always do, and I'm watching the live coverage. Fantastic that we have it on Queer News. So I scream over to my wife, "Hey, it's live. They're going to do the signing right now." She's looking through all the networks and can't find it.
Yeah.
And they would come in and then come out. They didn't give it the love that I was expecting. Like I expected to see it on all the channels.
Yeah.
Nothing, boys.
Yeah.
Nothing.
But we were there.
But we were
with
there.
All the legislation that's been going around the country, anti-LGBTQ legislation, to have this happen, to have the White House in pride colors, this is a big pushback from the administration. Right?
It's interesting to me, to the observation you just made. In 2015, when the Supreme Court ruled, Obama's in the White House. Now, remember, Joe Biden was vice president of the United States. He got to gay marriage and said, I support marriage rights before the president did. He got out in front of the president. Remember that in 2010? And in 2015, the Supreme Court rules. Do you remember how shocked the entire world was that the White House illuminated in rainbow colors?
Yeah, it was a big deal.
That was just 7 years ago. They did it last night for the second time, and we all went, okay. No.
Yeah.
This is really that. Look at that picture.
It's amazing.
That's breathtaking.
Picture.
Yes, and our friend Kathy Renner from the National Task Force was there live also. So I was texting with her, and she was like, "Faye, the energy was just intense." Paul, you knew some people there as well, and it's like,
well, yeah, I was surprised to see
Drop
so many
names.
faces. Well, Janelle Perez was there. She also ran for Senate, and her wife, and there were quite a few people who I was like, wow, that's fantastic that there's a delegation, especially from Florida, especially with this guy in Tallahassee talking about running for president.
Yeah. Who?
Yeah, this is
Who?
yeah.
Some guy.
I'm not
Some
saying
guy.
names.
It's so wonderful today. We're not even going to say it.
yeah, right. Don't ruin it, Al. Don't ruin it.
This is so monumentally important, and I hope that everybody remembers this and relishes this moment, because this is the biggest legislative victory the LGBTQ community is ever going to have in our lifetimes. We saw the uphill battle. We were pushing the boulder uphill for years and years. And shout out to the Del Mays. Not only are they wonderful people, they have been involved in the marriage equality movement. They didn't just go down to the courthouse and file a lawsuit in 2014. They've been part of the marriage equality movement for decades. So they are true heroes to our community. And it's never going to get better than this in our lifetime. We look at all of the things going on throughout the states to undermine us. Those are still very real, but this is something extraordinary, and I just hope everyone understands that.
Let's enjoy the moment.
I want to take a highlighter to what you said, because in my opinion, you just hit the bullseye. Yesterday, as we were getting ready to watch the ceremony, Cyndi Lauper, by the way, just amazing, we talked about the history in Florida of getting to this moment, and specifically the Del Mays. We started in 1977. You're both Miami-Dade County guys. The ordinance in Miami-Dade County and that issue, and then the move in the House and the Senate in Florida to make marriage against the law in Florida, and the sponsor, the state house sponsor, saying after marriage was declared illegal in Florida, to say this is a loud intention in 2006, a loud intention to tell you, talking to LGBT, go back, and the almost exact quote, go back into the closet, we do not want to hear from you. Wow. A state representative who gets this legislative passed said that just 16 years ago. And then in 2008, Florida passes a rejection of gay marriage, and 62% of Floridians vote for it to make it unconstitutional, get it in the Constitution of Florida. And then 2014 happens with the Del Mays, and the Florida Supreme Court overturned that. And then in 2015, the Supreme Court overturns it nationally. Yesterday is so important, even compared to those issues, because those were all judges that made that decision. This is implemented by the majority of Congress meaning the House and the Senate, signed by the President of the United States. That's why John hits the bullseye.
Right?
Except I don't think in our life. I think in our lifetime we'll see the Equality Act. I think in probably 4 to 6 years we'll see that.
Does this mean that now we can call it marriage instead of same-sex marriage and gay marriage? I hate that term.
Actually, now it means we have to get on our guard and get ready. Because when they make these federal laws, the states that are against gay marriage, and there are 35 of them that have already passed laws to say gay marriage is illegal in their state, they will find, they call it nullification, how to get around a federal law. They will use that. These 35 states will use that to make sure your marriage is not valid.
You're a downer, Paul. You know that? I was all excited and happy for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, no, but we should be happy for 2 minutes, but then we have to be real.
Right.
No, you're
because
right.
they're going to come for us.
I have to amend your observation before we move on.
We haven't even started the show yet.
I know. We're 9 minutes into the show. We are going to be happy through New Year's Eve. We're celebrating for the rest of this entire year.
Okay.
And then when we come back January 2nd, now we'll take on the fight again. All
get
over
ready.
again.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds
Congratulations.
Well, one of the things before we move on, I love how this whole ceremony was built around the context of the history. So, it couldn't have been better that you said, Jeff and Todd up there, because that really puts it into perspective, like you're saying, John, of how long this has taken. And as happy as I am right now, I'm also a little upset that it's taken so long, because it's like we really had to fight hard for this. So let's just enjoy it while we can.
We've got to enjoy it for all of the rest of the year. We will.
2 weeks.
January 2. Then we'll take our quarterback here to my left, and we'll start to fight all over again. All right. I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio models of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ plus community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
And production is going to help us. We have a little technical problem with Dan. Our magazine is celebrating 37 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus community and the broader community. All right, let's begin by welcoming anchor FayWhat. FayWhat?
Thank you. I was like, what was wrong?
I was going to say, well, I was concentrating there. Wait, so bonus. FayWhat? All right. She is a radio and television personality. What was that squeaky noise that we just heard? Personality, has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and an MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Fay's Fur Family. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ plus morning show in the world, Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern, online and on your smart TV. And by the way, did you hear? Recently, Faye won the SFGN Best Local Television Personality for 2022. And again, before I toss to you, Faye, we still have an issue with Dan in terms of...
Dan, why are you messing up my intro, bro?
Okay. Everybody has an issue with Dan. Let's just put that out there right now.
No one has an issue with Dan.
Nobody.
Faye.
Good evening, folks. And I'm going to be a downer just like Paul is. Okay. I want to give a shout out to anybody struggling. The holidays can be real tough. And, we got news this morning that Steven Twitch Boss, you know him as the DJ of the Ellen Show. He also was on So You Think You Can Dance, and he was on a bunch of other shows as well. He was incredible. He ended up becoming a judge and also leading his own team on there. And unfortunately, he committed suicide this morning. And, again, the holidays are difficult. Help. Men are less likely to tell folks that they need help, that they're going through tough times. This man had a wife and 3 beautiful children, and he ended his life because he didn't want to be on this earth anymore. If you're going through something, there is help. Please seek it.
988.
Next up, let's welcome our brother from another mother. His name is John Hayden. I know, we look exactly alike. A journalist for 27 years, he now works for several outlets, including South Florida Gay News, as a reporter and community editor, covering politics, entertainment, and local events directly impacting the LGBTQ+ community. John's interviewed everyone from presidents to Oscar winners and the big guy at an undisclosed location near the North Pole, but says what he really wants for Christmas is a South Pole. Ay, John, de verdad, wow.
What does that mean?
You don't want to know. You know, he wants a... Oh, okay, I'm not going to say it. Hello, John, how are you?
Wait, I just figured this out. Is he talking about Santa?
Yes, and his pole.
Oh, my, okay.
And what makes this joke even better, my dad's sitting in the audience. Hey, Dad.
Oh, my God. Hello, Mr. Hayden.
I guess that's what we've always wanted, is our parents to embrace us. No matter how strange that embracement.
Oh, well, now it is my privilege to embrace Anchor Paul Thomas. He is currently the chairman of the LGBTQ+ Advisory Committee to the City of Miami Beach, a board member of Miami Beach Pride on the board of directors for the Point Foundation and the endorsement committee for SAVE. He has over 30 years of experience in the healthcare and education fields, specializing in AIDS, HIV treatments, as well as an activist advocate for marginalized community. Locally, he works with many of our nonprofits and FQHCs, providing a wide range of services. Good evening and happy early holidays, Paul.
Good evening, John. Thank you very much. And since I've been called a downer, I'll bring a little good news. Tomorrow, if you live in Miami-Dade County, is Holiday. Holiday is the best event to kick off the season at the LGBTQ Visitor Center, put on by the Miami-Dade Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. If you're around, stop by, bring a gift. That's entrance, an unwrapped gift, and have some fun with us.
Holidays.
Is it like holidays?
Yeah. All of that. We do all of that.
And if you don't have a toy, they take money. So bring money. That's okay too.
It's certainly a great cause. But here's one of the reasons why we really should hate RuPaul. Because every time you can manipulate a word into something gay, holiday.
Yeah.
I got it.
It works.
It works.
Okay, and now we're going to welcome anchor Dan Rios. He's the director of LGBTQ+ marketing for the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the official destination marketing organization for Greater Miami and Miami Beach. Joining their marketing and tourism divisions in 2002, Dan is considered one of America's top experts on LGBTQ+ travel and tourism. Welcome, Dan.
Why, thank you, Paul. Hello, anchors. Great to be here with you. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community is across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Wednesday, December 14th, 2022.
Well, let's begin by queering up LGBTQ+ civil rights. Cyndi Lauper leads White House press briefing prior to the historic gay marriage bill signing.
Hi, I just want to tell you, I came here because I wanted to say thank you to President Biden, Speaker Pelosi, Vice President Harris, and all the advocates and his team for once, our families, mine and a lot of my friends and people you know, sometimes your neighbors, we can rest easy tonight because our families are validated. And because now we're allowed to love who we love, which sounds odd to say, but Americans can now love who we love. And bless Joe Biden and all the people that worked on this for allowing people not to worry and their children not to worry about their future. Thank you, and thank you for being supportive, and hey, I will sing out to you. Thank you very much.
Well, Cyndi Lauper dropped in on the White House press briefing room on Tuesday, then performed her 1986 hit True Colors before President Biden signed legislation codifying the legality of same-sex and interracial marriage across America. Lauper, who is 69 years old, told surprise reporters that she was glad that gay and lesbian couples will be assured of their eligibility for nuptials under the Respect for Marriage Act. The House of Representatives passed the marriage bill 258 to 169 last week, with 39 House Republicans voting in favor. The Senate passed the bill 61 to 36 in late November, with 12 Republican supporters. The law signed Tuesday repealed the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act that banned federal recognition of same-sex marriages, denying the conveyance of federal benefits, including Social Security and immigration status. And what a great moment. Cyndi Lauper is a tremendous advocate for our community. She has sung that song in so many different ways. I've seen her do it multiple times. It has become an LGBT anthem. Cyndi Lauper has talked about in the writing of the song that it was inspirational in terms of the rainbow iconic embracement for the LGBTQ community and of allowing your true colors to shine through. And so it was beautiful that she started in the press room. She did that before she performed at the signing ceremony. And I just think a beautiful moment of a representation of allyship. It was not an LGBT voice to say, wait, the entire LGBTQ community is celebrating, and you're getting ready to see the who's who of advocates in America standing out on that lawn. But we, as allies, are right there with you. And that's what Cyndi Lauper represented in the press briefing room.
And how dope is she that she could just drop in on the White House? Well, I was just driving by. I figured, let me come and say what's up and say thank you, you know. Look, she looked amazing. Didn't she look amazing? Like, I'm turning everything into a gay word now. She just looked incredible. And that song, True Colors, it really, here's the thing. When I was a little girl, I was like 6 or 7 when a Girls Just Want to Have Fun came out. So I would run all around the house singing that song. Right? And then when this song came out, I thought it was like Paul, a downer, right? I was like, oh, this song is kind of sad, right?
That's funny.
And then as an adult coming out and hearing this song sung her way, because she sings it a little different when she's singing it to us, right? All of a sudden I would just start bawling and crying because I really felt the essence of True Colors. I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. I don't think there would have been anybody more perfect than Cyndi Lauper to do that.
There's not many. And when you read, that the song came out in 1986, and if you remember, in 1986, everyone was dying from AIDS.
Oh my God, you're right.
And she wrote that song then, and I remember when that song came out, and I remember it was like that hope. So to see her, you know what? Even if she was driving by and she was on her way to the supermarket and she decided to drop in.
She was on her way for a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
But something's going on at the White House.
Right.
See?
Right. But for Cyndi of all people to go, you know what? This is that important that I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Right. When people like Cyndi Lauper, these icons, can be anywhere in the world and they choose to be there for us.
Yeah.
And to continue to lend their voice.
Absolutely.
To me, it's like everything.
I've interviewed Cyndi Lauper before, and she is truly genuine. She is one of those people and it wasn't even about gay stuff. It was like to promote one of her family shows on VH1. But she is so loyal to our community, and I have a feeling I didn't have to tell her I was gay. I kind of have a feeling she could just,
She could smell it on you.
She could smell the gay on me. Yeah.
No.
But she was wonderful, and she was warm and welcoming. Yeah. You'll find out later.
I just got really red.
My dad and I saw her in Vegas. She was opening for Cher, another good friend of mine and my dad's who we've hung out with. But when she performed True Colors at the MGM Grand Garden, so it was like a huge 13,000, 15,000 people crowd. Everybody was singing along. And she had come out. She was sitting like on the edge of the stage. And it was like right after Pride Month. It was like 4th of July week. So it was just so moving. And it was so amazing. That said, I think it really would have been funnier if she would have performed She Bop yesterday.
Wow.
At the White House.
Yeah, no.
Because it's a,
Just talk.
Unbelievable.
Dan,
Well, I gotta
Dan,
say,
just say anything.
it's about the batch.
if
You
we're
want to
gonna
talk about Miami tourism?
Well, you know what? Yeah, if we're gonna drop venues, we're gonna start dropping names and venues. I heard
Not
that
gay
song
pop,
performed at the Adrian Arts Center and talk about
Miami,
In
folks.
Miami, yeah. So please visit
Was that-
MiamiLGBTQ.com for more information.
Was that at the Cher concert, or was she standalone?
Standalone. It was brilliant,
And
brilliant.
I saw at Amway in Orlando the concert that John's talking about, and to be honest, and many of my hardest, my most loyalist gay friends always get mad at me when I tell this story. I've seen Cher many times in concert, front row many times, invited, wonderful experiences. The one time Cher was not the star was the Cyndi Lauper opening, which is that concert, because in the big arena, Cher was just having some trouble in being able to keep up with a venue that size, because that was like 35,000, 40,000. And Cyndi Lauper just knocked it out of the park. And I will never forget, I've seen her a couple of times, but in that moment, she was like in the peak of her game. This was maybe 10 years ago that she did that concert with Cher. And she did True Colors, and it was just like she knocked it out of the park. And so when I watched that yesterday, it was amazing. And by the way, one other thing that we should say about yesterday, in addition to her, Sam Smith wasn't so bad either. He did a pretty good job.
Sam Smith loves poppers.
Yes. Oh, does he?
Yeah, no, he's really outspoken about it. I'm not lying, folks. Okay, you know I would never lie to you.
Wait, do you know your audience, gay men?
He's just like you.
All right.
Well, we move on reluctantly.
Please, faster, John.
And queer up, but we move on and we queer up drag culture. After the Club Q shooting, high-profile queens beef up security. The deadly shooting at Club Q in Colorado Springs has made the already stressful life of touring drag performers even harder. Jinx Monsoon told NBC News, quote, "We're trying to smile and make people happy for the holidays. And in the back of our heads, we're thinking, I hope I don't get shot," end quote. Monsoon, who is set to make her Broadway debut in Chicago next year, said that over the past several months, she had been using metal detectors and creating venue escape routes for her U.S. events. Since the Club Q shooting, however, she has hired armed guards and has started to ban re-entry following the start of her performances. Fellow drag queen Alaska said that in the days following the Club Q shooting, she sat down with her staff to plot out escape routes at each venue remaining on her current nationwide tour. She said, quote, "It's mortifying that we even have to think about these things for something as joyous and celebratory as a drag show. Why do we have to be worried about where the exits are and where a safe route to get to safety is? It's terrifying, but that's the reality of it," end quote. And, you know, I've been speaking with a lot of drag queens. A lot of them are obviously my friends. I interview many of them locally for South Florida Gay News and other publications. And I've talked with several about how they are taking extra steps. They have, one has bought a gun that she carries with her. A couple of venues are quietly increasing security measures that beyond just having beefy guys, you know, at the door. It's something taken very seriously. And the threats against the LGBT community are on the rise. We are not safe anywhere. And Chief Gary Blocker of the Wilton Manors Police told me after the Colorado Springs shooting, we prepare for when.
Oh my God, John.
It's
that's
not if.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Look, and to all those business owners, it's up to you guys to make sure that our girls are protected. All right. I have girlfriends of mine that are also now having extra security, you know, carrying things that they probably shouldn't. When you start carrying things can go off and worse things can happen, you know? Mm-hmm. So to these club owners, take care of our girls. I went to a drag show the other day where they had, you know, I'm not graceful on my feet, people. And I tripped right over this thing at the entrance and they had put in a metal detector, one big, huge one that I, again, tripped over. But good, do it. Check me out, all right? No problem. Because, I mean, safety has to be paramount when it comes to our girls.
Yeah, so I like when she pointed out, you know, how sad is it that in 2022, in our society, in our modern day society, that in something as celebratory as a drag show, where you cannot laugh harder, and it's just impossible to not have fun at a drag show, that there are people going out of their way to physically harm and kill people. This is unacceptable in society. People are doing what they have to do. The club owners are, the performers are, but really, as a society, it's time that we take a look around and go, okay, what are we going to live with and what are we not going to live with? We cannot live with this level of violence just anywhere that where our being is. It's not acceptable.
You know, and one of the things to keep in mind is also, you know, let's take the drag out of the equation here. This is people going to work.
Right.
Imagine going to work and having to fear for your life. I mean, this is ridiculous.
There,
you know,
there it is. Sad for me. I've worked with Jinx countless times on the cruise, and she would bring major scales with her. And first off, Jinx is an unbelievably talented drag queen. She wins this All Stars that season. This most recent All-Star season is the greatest RuPaul show ever in history. All inclinations, all brands, period, all international versions. This All-Stars was the greatest show ever in RuPaul, which is in the year 15, which I think is amazing. And Jinx Monsoon was one of the major reasons why. She is just beyond talented. And when I would watch her on the cruises and the different kinds that she would do a specialty show on the cruise, and just so talented. And it was just pure joy of the invention of this Broadway-ish kind of thinking for drag. And when I read the words that she says about how incredibly sad and how it makes her feel, it makes me sad because these are the consequences of the words that are coming out of people's mouths that are inappropriate and unmeasured. Right. And the consequence of the reason why they're saying these words is because they want power and money to control and get where they want. Right. And the way you do that is you marginalize those that have the least voice, and that is trans and drag queens. And that's why this is going on. We have to stand up against this. We
punching down, constantly punching down on the people that need the help the most.
Yeah, the most.
I'm so tired of it.
Yeah. But Jinx Monsoon, we love you. Alaska was on one of the cruises on the platform that you are getting ready to cruise on, and we were in the ice skating ring, and Alaska did a show in the ice skating ring, and it had that big staircase, and she was on the first step, and she stepped down on those like 7-inch heels that she was doing, and she tripped at the top of the stairs and fell down to the second stair. And the brilliance of the drag queen of the moment and the brilliance of Alaska was, wait, I've fallen down. How am I going to possibly stand back up and recover from that? So she immediately made the choice of, in Lucille Ball fashion, roll all the way down the steps to the stage.
Tuck and roll, Alaska, tuck and roll.
She got a standing ovation for just that choice. We love our drag queens.
Absolutely.
We love our drag queens.
Absolutely.
Next up, we queer up education. Florida starts pressure on school districts to comply with anti-LGBTQ plus new rules. The State Board of Education in Florida met today to discuss school district compliance with the state's new Parents' Bill of Rights. Last month, the state's Department of Education sent letters to 10 districts statewide asking them to confirm they had updated their policies and guides to comply with new rules passed by the board in October. Many of the issues cited in the individual letters dealt with LGBTQ plus student privacy and the use of bathroom and locker facilities by transgender students. Jacob Oliva, Senior Chancellor of the Florida Department of Education, wrote letters to select school districts in November, citing specific examples where existing district policies and publications did not comply with the new rules. The districts included Alachua County, Brevard County, Broward County, Duval County, Florida School for the Deaf and the Blind, Hillsborough County, Indian River County, Leon County, Miami-Dade County, and Palm Beach County. Under Florida's controversial HB 1557, passed and signed into law earlier this year, parents must be notified of any changes related to their child's health and well-being and the school's ability to provide a safe and supportive education. The new rules were passed on October 19th. Joe Saunders, Senior Political Director at Equality Florida, described new rules as an, quote, an attempt to bully and intimidate districts, end quote, that accommodate gender students in a press release at the time. You know, this is scary times that this is now going to be implemented. I mean, think about it. Trans kids not being able to use the bathroom with the one that they identify with, being dead named by their teacher, not being, you know, people not using the right pronouns to address them. This, you know what this leads to? Bullying, and what it leads to? Suicide. Those are two things that this will undeniably, I guarantee, we will start telling stories about that right here on Queer News Tonight with days to come.
And of course it will lead to bullying, because this is bullying.
Yeah.
It's bullying from the state level.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, anything. I take heart in what we're watching in Ukraine. And we're watching a marginalized group in invasion by a bully to say, this is what you're going to do and you're going to surrender. And everyone in the first weeks thought, you know, Ukraine is just going to topple and fall. And the reason I mention that is in Florida, I see some similarities. Our Putin is Governor Ron DeSantis. And our Russia is Tallahassee in the legislature. And they're bullies, and they're going to do what they want, however they want to do it. And your responsibility is to capitulate. But what we've learned in Ukraine is that's not always a good idea, because the Ukrainians that we have here in Florida are the students that are being marginalized and the teachers that are beginning in subtle ways to fight, and the school boards like Broward County and the counties, Alachua is a dog whistle. Wait, Alachua, you're not doing what we say. Well, why is that? That's where the University of Florida is, and Alachua is the only blue island in upper North Florida and the Panhandle, and they're not following this. And so there's going to be more and more and more of Ukrainian thinking of going, no, we're going to kind of figure out how to beat you at this. Now, we can't beat you because you're Russia, but we're going to figure out ways to bypass and do it. And one of the examples of that is recently I went to the Rafa Center's event 2 weeks ago, and Justin Jones, who is the president of the Rafa Center, is an organization especially principally for Black and people of color in terms of AIDS and HIV health education. His job is working in Miami-Dade County. And as I interviewed him, and we did a report piece on the Rafa gala that they did, I find out that he works for Miami-Dade County Schools. And what does he do for Miami-Dade County Schools? He is the compliance officer for Miami-Dade County Schools that administers funds that come from the state of Florida and federally Department of Education. For one of the principal things that he does is to make sure that Miami-Dade County is Don't Say Gay compliant.
Oh my goodness.
He is a Black gay guy. Eventually, the Ukrainians are going to find ways to stand up against Putin and Russia, and they will be successful. It's just a little clip of how the possibilities of success in the future are going to come.
One thing I hope that people are looking at, you know, in this bill, it says that parents must be notified. And in that, there's an assumption that every kid goes home to this happy-go-lucky family life. And most of the time, school is the safe space and home is the unsafe space. Yeah. And so when you start notifying parents, making the child then not be able to trust anyone at school, now they have nowhere to go. But also, what happens to that child when they go home? I mean, this can be very, very dangerous, right? Yeah. And the idea that no one is considering the fallout from this, I mean, a judge or someone needs to step in and go, wait a second. We're putting kids' lives at risk. We can't allow this to go forward. They've thrown out other parts of DeSantis' bills. You know, they don't talk about that enough. He passes these things, but then a lot of the big parts of the bills get thrown out. This is a part that really needs to get thrown out. You cannot just call a child's home. You don't know the parents. And start outing them and start telling them things, right? This is very dangerous.
No, to your point, Paul, you know, when I was 7 years old and I was still in Colombia at the time, and my teacher caught me with my little boyfriend at the time, we were holding hands during recess. Aww. And if that teacher would have called my father, I would not be here today. You know, that's how my, you know, it was just a very...
in terms of physical?
Oh, absolutely. Response. Absolutely. My father would have beat me to the pulp.
And then thrown you outside. Yeah. And then you would have been on your own.
And this is, you know, exactly. And this is what I mean. This is what happens. Yeah. So it's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. We're going to give an example of that as we move on to what's going on in Texas.
Okay, and now we're going to keep an eye on that bill. We're going to find a way around. I like your analogy, Al. I like to find workarounds. We're going to queer up drag culture. Here we go again. San Antonio Theater faced armed protesters at a Christmas-themed drag show. several dozen demonstrators gathered outside the Aztec Theater in downtown San Antonio on Tuesday night. Some were there to condemn the holiday-themed drag show scheduled to take place inside, and others were there to support the show. Some shouldered weapons. Alongside them were armed San Antonio police officers, eyeing both sides as the crowds grew. The Texas-based far-right extremist group, this is Texas Freedom Force, led the demonstration. It said earlier that it was there over unsubstantiated claims regarding children. The Texas Freedom Force has been described as a militia extremist group by the FBI. The group denounced the show as an attempt at grooming children. The group's Twitter said, quote, "This all could have been avoided. Make the show 18 years old and up." Even the opposition claims the show isn't geared towards kids, so why allow them in? Oh, that's right, because it is about grooming kids. They want kids there, end quote. Supporters of the LGBTQ+ community conducted a counter-demonstration. Among them was Benjamin Clodfelter, a member of Veterans for Equality. He came armed with a rifle. He said carrying the weapon was meant to be a show of force against the far-right group. By 7 p.m., supporters and critics of the drag show filled the sidewalks on opposite sides of St. Mary's Street. Some of the participants supporting the show held signs celebrating LGBTQ rights, waved flags, danced to music, and chanted, and I am so disgusted reading this story. I just cannot even believe, it's interesting. They call themselves the Freedom Force, and yet they're showing up at somebody's event that they're not invited to. And then they're telling them the rules that they would like them to follow. Well, why don't you make it this way? Dude, why don't you mind your business? Like, why aren't you home cooking yourself a hamburger? Why are you bothering other people? Nobody cares about what your opinion is. If you don't want to go to the drag show, then stay home and do something else with your life.
The answer is power and money.
Control. Who tells these people they have the right to even run around and do these things?
No, even saying that you want to make the shows 18 and over, shouldn't that be up to the parent to decide? I've been to many drag shows where the parent has brought.
We want parental rights.
Right, and that's the name of the damn thing. I mean, come on. We go to drag shows all the time where there'll be a parent with a teenager, and the teenager's having the time of his life or her life.
And you know why we now don't want parental rights in decision making there? Because of power and money.
It's unbelievable.
And it's another one of those, like our last story, those extremely dangerous tactics, like that label of child groomers, because it empowers people. They feel they need to do something and attack the gay community.
Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say that they dragged up all the most intimate, special things to scare people. Toilets. I mean, let's face it, you're never more vulnerable than when you're in the bathroom. And you want your children to feel safe. And so it's all about children and everything like that. But at the end of the day, they're showing up with things that could kill the children that could be there. And we just have power and money.
Power.
But they have this, we have to be prepared that at some point they're going to go from intimidation and open fire at one of these things. We've been there where a paintball was shot from a passing truck on Wilton Drive that was sporting a big American flag, because apparently there's nothing more American than terrorizing your fellow citizens. Yeah. It happens here. It's going to happen.
I want to counterbalance the observation. How about on LGBT and drag queen and equality support? What happens when, as in we report in this story, someone vocally and vigorously says, no, I'm bringing my gun to support LGBT rights?
Oh my God.
I've recently, I did the Fauci interview and we talked about Larry Kramer. And one of the interesting things that came from that interview from a lot of my friends is ACT UP. I didn't know a lot about ACT UP, and they've started looking into ACT UP in terms of what they did, especially in the early 90s, in being so vocally. I know you have very strong opinions on this. What do y'all think about the idea that bringing the guns to the drag events in protest, in support of the events, in fighting in opposition to what we saw last week on US 1 and Las Olas with Liberty Moms for Liberty and Proud Boys showing up. What do you think about the ACT UP mentality of, okay, well, if you want to come to a fight, we're coming to a fight. What do you think about
I'm against it.
You're asking for trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you're just escalating probably the inevitable. And I know that you should say, well, if they've got guns, we should have guns too. And I think, well, I'm very well on the record of being against all guns. Except for licensed police officers and other people who are deemed worthy to enforce security.
You don't need an AK-47 to go hunting.
You don't need an AK-47. Well, except that they do, because we know who they're hunting.
Let's not talk about gun control, which is where you're going.
Right.
My question is very specific. Do we go to a knife fight with the Gettysburg Address?
You know, part of me wants to tell you, Al, we should come to this fight with love, and we should fight them with love, and that's how to do it. But you know, this hasn't worked, right? And they're more organized than us. Okay, so if you're gonna come and bring your gun, also just make sure that you know what you're doing, because you're gonna get stupid people also getting guns that don't know how to use them, and then you're gonna think, I heard a pop. Was that a pop? Let's start shooting. And then little kids will die.
And also, you know, a lot of those people are really cowards. They walk around with big guns, but they're really cowards. For the veterans to be on the other side of the street, going, we're vets, we got our guns.
I'm thinking
what you got? Those guys are not ready to deal with veterans. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the old gay metaphor joke about big bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
where they're
small
small.
peepees.
Yeah, I mean, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? This
Yeah.
is horrendous. What's going on?
We've got to focus on that answer. We're watching what's happening. We've got to focus on what we're going to do next.
Now let's queer up health. The Black AIDS Advisory Group Awards still have great need. Do you know anyone who has had a significant impact on HIV in the Black community in Broward? In honor of National Black HIV AIDS Awareness Day, the Black AIDS Advisory Group is hosting the HIV/AIDS Community Service Awards. The HIV/AIDS Community Service Awards recognize, reward, and encourage activities that make or have a substantial impact on meeting the needs of people living with HIV and AIDS in Broward County and utilizing a high-impact approach for HIV prevention. There are 4 different awards people can be nominated for. The prestigious CARE Award recognizes individuals who has made a significant contribution to the public health and social well-being of Black Broward County residents living with HIV. The Excellence in Community Partnership Award honors those with an exceptional record of service in collaboration with Black AIDS Advisory Group. The award will be given to the community, agency, group, or institution that demonstrates excellence in collaborative work with BAAG, resulting in a partnership that produces positive differences in the Black community. The Distinguished Community Champions Award is for those who demonstrate outstanding achievement in and commitment to community outreach, engagement, and mobilization with an established record of sustained impact. Finally, the Juliet Love Leadership Award recognizes a longtime leader committed to raising awareness of HIV and AIDS in the Black community of Broward County, who have demonstrated an exceptional record of exemplary commitment and service through volunteerism or service. There are no restrictions regarding who can make a nomination. Individuals may nominate others or self-nominate. However, individuals should be nominated for their personal qualifications and commitment, not solely for their company or organization affiliation. Nominations must be submitted by January 10th, 2023. The link to submit the nominees is available by scanning the QR code on the screen with your phone or on their Facebook and YouTube. What a great opportunity to recognize people that work so hard and do this incredible work for our community. Would love to go in there and start nominating right now.
Yeah, Paul, we made the joke. Faye made. Well, I don't. You tell the joke. That I don't want.
So when I saw this pop up on Facebook, I was like, oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna nominate myself. I'm not black, and I haven't done anything for AIDS, right? And then I go, oh my God, my good friend Paul, he's been around forever. So let me get in, let me start nominating. He doesn't live in Broward. Paul, can you move to Broward, please? That's where I was at. I'm happy that we're spotlighting someone in the black community that has done so much. Yes. I wish we could nominate you, Paul.
Paul, you work in the healthcare field. You have for apparently, according to Faye, decades and decades. It sounds like an age read to me, but maybe I'm just misunderstanding what she was saying. What do you think about the idea of having recognition awards that for community members that are focusing on HIV issues in the black community? What do you think about that?
I think it's very important. The community, the black community, black and brown community, historically really struggled with getting access to care. And then culturally, with all the different barriers, once we had great medication and all these great tools to help people, it was hard to get them to patients. And so the people from what you just read, the people that they're looking to honor, who are people who have really gone above and beyond and really gotten in there, those places where it's hard to have those conversations. And they've had them anyway, and they've made an impact. I live in Miami-Dade, but I know the first time I went out to Liberty City, they literally said to me, you can't talk about HIV and AIDS out here.
Wow.
Like, you can't. And then they made me sit inside of a building. They told me.
Imagine what would have happened if I showed up to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just saying this, the people that they want nominated are people who've really taken on a huge service because they've gone into the community. In healthcare, we've been finding ways to get people to come to us. Mm-hmm. And what they're saying is, no, the people who went into the communities and said, this is important. Mm-hmm. We have to do this, even if it's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It's saving lives. And I give them a lot of credit. It's not easy to be that person to walk into that church.
I just have to
walk into that family situation.
I have learned so much about HIV/AIDS issues in communities of color, black and brown. We broadcast the 2-day men's wellness conference with the Department of Health, principally focusing on black and brown community men, and the percentage of infection is dramatically higher among people of color, gay people of color, than it is white people. And then you wonder, is that access? Is it education? Is it a cultural issue of rejection against LGBT in the communities broadly? And probably a combination of all kinds of issues. But the fact remains, HIV/AIDS is a much greater, it's a great issue anyway, but it's a much greater issue in our LGBT, especially gay men, people of color. The other thing that I think is really important here, which we talk about all the time, and I don't think we can talk enough about it, and it's really in 2022 became a big commitment for me. I am keenly and painfully aware that Wilton Manors in general and Wilton Drive in specific is a very white, privileged, gay community. It just is. For someone to argue with me that it's not, it's like, please, let's sit down and have that debate, and I assure you I'm probably going to whip your ass. Because at the end of the day, we must do more in our principal gay neighborhoods, gayborhoods, and communities in terms of what we do for color. And we're just not doing a good enough job.
If I could throw in as well, there's a big rejection against the healthcare community as well, from black and brown communities. They don't trust healthcare. No. And down south, I'm from New York, and when I moved down here, I was shocked how many people down here.
And why is that, Paul? I don't understand.
There's very real harm that was caused by healthcare to those communities. I mean, they were used as test subjects, and people are still alive to this day, and they remember when the vans came through. So there were very real things that happened. And so that's why it makes it even more important to take yourself and the institution into the neighborhood and be the first to start having these conversations that can save lives. Because like you said, it's a combination of a lot of very serious things. It's not an easy thing. I'm looking forward to see who the names are and what type of work people are doing, because I know they're challenged, but I'd love to hear some of the creative stuff.
We are voicing at Queer News Tonight and Happening Out and Hotspots Magazine, we're voicing up support for this because it's important. We think it's great, and we hope nominate somebody that you think has done a great job for the Black AIDS awards that are happening from this from the advisory group. Congratulations for it.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
Happy Solstice and Happy New Year. I'm entertainment journalist, poet, and fiction writer Greg Shapiro. Here on the set at Sunshine Cathedral, which is one of the many things I love about Sunshine Cathedral, being the home for It's Happening Out and Queer News Tonight, and also for its wonderful entertainment shows. That's why Sunshine Cathedral is #MyQueerChurch.
They all look alike.
John Hayden has never looked so good.
That color looked incredible on her.
Background.
And how do you polish your head? You should always do that.
And whatever those new glasses are, they're working.
They're dope.
Right?
Really dope. All right.
Well, that is today's news.
Any other comments, John? Next time. Right.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ+ news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
See, clearly we're live. Clearly.
And holy crap, he's loud, and that's coming from me. You guys know I'm loud, right? Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat, John Hayden, Paul Thomas, and Dan Rios. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ+ community, we wish you
Good night.
Bye.